This video is a demonstration of the 3DEXPERIENCE platform on the cloud and three different modes of file and document collaboration and management on the system. So we're going to look at the first mode of unstructured file and document collaboration, where we can share things somewhat freely without a lot of structure around revision management. And we're going to look at a second mode where we can do full document management with revision control, with lifecycle states and approvals. And then we're going to briefly touch on a third mode where we can do that document management in a more rich PLM environment, in a PLM context, inside of projects. So we'll just start with the first mode of sort of unstructured collaboration. And what I'm going to do is log into the platform here as myself. And when I log into the platform, the first thing I'm going to be presented with is my dashboard. This is personalized to me. I've configured this to show just the information I want to see when I'm entering the platform. I've got a couple of things that I'm looking at here. One is news from the 3D Swim application. This is our unstructured collaboration area where we have different posts and files, things that we want to share and work with, on an informal basis and get input from colleagues and look at what colleagues are working on. I've got another reader here that's feeding me information from a more structured part of the system, where I'm looking at projects being managed by Innovia. And these are projects that maybe I participate in or I might manage, and I've got up-to-date information here on that. But I want to do something more specific here. I want to get right into that 3D Swim application. And I've got a scenario I want to describe that we'll take through all three of these modes here. And that is, I need to lead a PPAP process, a production part approval process, for my customer Ford. We're delivering a part to them. They need this documentation to continue on in their process. So I need to share out some files with colleagues, get some help and input on those, and collaborate. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go into a community here. I'll just jump right into this community. Assume maybe this is a community for people working on the Ford program who might need to post things, get help, share information, that kind of thing. And I'm going to create a post in this area. And this post is going to give a little background on what I'm trying to do. It's PPAP for part number, whatever it might be. So I'll give a little background here, and then I can share out the files and we can work on those as a team. So I'll say the project manager for this effort is Bill Thomason. The PPAP is set for delivery in late November. The standard set of PPAP documents are needed for the new program manager at Ford, John Jacobs. Gotta spell his name right though. Okay, and please provide help on the specification document in particular. So I'm letting my colleagues know exactly what kind of help I need, and I'm going to post some other information. But like I mentioned, this is about file collaboration, so I've got a place where I can add files right here in the environment. Let me just tile things up so I can see some of the files I have. I'll just open this Word document. You can see the content I've already created here in Word. And I'm going to go ahead and put that into this post. I'm going to put this other file into this post. This is an image of the part that we're looking at. So let me fill in a little information on those. You see they've both been added. Can put in a little more content here. This is image of the part. And we'll let people download that. It is an illustration, so I'll save that. This is the full definition of the part. It's not an illustration, so I'll save that. And back up in my post, you can see these are a little bit large, so let me just shrink those down to normal size that people can see within the post. Okay, my post looks pretty good. I'll go ahead and publish that so that others on the community can see it. Here it is. I can see, who's seen it, who's posted it, that sort of thing. But what I want to do now is sign out and come back in as a different user to see what they're going to see and what they might do to help me out and to do some of this unstructured collaboration. So I'm not Jonathan Scott anymore. I'm now Michael Craffey. I'll log in as Michael here and play his role for a minute. So what we'll see when we log in as Michael is he has a different dashboard, like I mentioned earlier. He actually has a number of dashboards that he can look at. And he has some different roles in the platform so he can see different things. But I want to do what we just did as Jonathan Scott. I want to come into this 3D Swim platform. And what Michael's going to notice is that that new post shows up in his news feed, what's going on in his communities. And he may belong to different communities than Jonathan did, but we can see he certainly shares this one where we're working on Ford content. And he can come in and have a look at the post, project manager, and all the information and context that his colleagues set. But what he's going to do is he knows, given his role within the company, that he can help work on this specification. He can help make changes to it. So he's going to download that. You get the idea. This is just quick and easy. We're getting a hold of the file, making edits. So we're going to work on this, and I'm not going to do anything too crazy, but Michael here is going to make some changes to the color of the font. So we'll just save this. But notice we need to save it as something different. This is the unstructured collaboration part. The system isn't doing things for us like setting revision and controlling the various versions and that sort of thing. So I just need to do that myself. I'll save it as a slightly different file so that I can feed this back to my colleague, right? So I'm playing the role again as Michael. I'm going to feed this back to Jonathan. I have updated the product specification for you. Okay. So, but to do that, I need to share the file. So I'll click Add Media, and now we see we have this option again where we can drag and drop some of the files. So it looks like that Rev1 that I created is right here. I'll drag that in. We can see that file's now been added to the post. Let me just resize that again so it's not too huge for everybody to look at. Down in the preferences, I'll note updated with font colors. Obviously, that's not a lot of real content, but nonetheless, we're making a comment about what this version is. And we're going to add this comment. And now we've started this threaded discussion, right? Now we're having a conversation. We have a context around it. We have some simple file sharing going on. If we want to look at the older version, we could see that here. We could see the updates provided by Michael Craffey. And then maybe Michael decides we need to do a little bit more here, that there's someone else, another expert within the company who's not participating in this who does need to participate. So based on his role, Michael says, well, I can go in and add maybe that expert. Maybe it's a materials person or someone else that needs to join in. And by looking across the platform and finding those users, you can add them right in. And now they can instantly be part of the conversation, and they'll get this information about updates in the community. So let's make that the end of our first scenario here, kind of a simple introduction to unstructured collaboration. And let's jump ahead now to more structured management of documents and files. So this time we're going to go at the cloud platform through tools that are more familiar to us, so native tools. So what I'm going to do here is click on the 3DEXPERIENCE launcher. It's going to ask me to log in. But what I'm going to have here in a minute is Windows Explorer. So the interface pops up, and inside of Windows Explorer, what we're seeing is a view into the 3DEXPERIENCE platform, right? View into our hard drive over here, typical Windows Explorer, view into the platform over here. So what we're going to do, we have lots of different areas of PLM that we could explore, but let's just look at the most simple for document management. We'll drill into this workspace, this JPSX development, and we'll see a folder inside of this workspace, and we'll see what content is already in there. So it's just like browsing Windows Explorer, but we're actually looking through content on the platform that's being managed with revisions and versions and metadata that we might track about the files. So I'm going to go ahead and add some new content here. Just tile up my window a little bit better here, and I've got a failure mode effects analysis file that we want to work on. I'll drag and drop that into Windows. And once the file is here inside of the platform, we can see we've gotten a confirmation that the drag and drop was successful, and we're now looking at our file. So I'll just maximize this so we have a better view of things. And what I want to do now is make some changes to this document now that it's being managed on the platform. So to be able to do that, I need to take control over it. This is part of what structured collaboration brings to you, is now that it's shared on the platform, anybody can have a look at it and work with it, but we want only one person making changes to it at a time. So we'll use this lock command to take ownership or control ownership over the file so that we can actually make changes to it now. And once we've done that and the file is locked, I can come down here and apply a description. So this is failure mode effects analysis for part number, whatever that part number might be. And I'll save that back to the system. So these attributes are things like you'd see on a web form or a data card that might be tracked and then searchable later in the system. Now I could make other changes as well. So what I want to do now is actually open up the file and make changes to the Excel file. Again, this is all managed on the platform now, right? So I've put the file into the system, and what I'm going to bring up inside of Excel is the file coming from the platform, right? You saw the copy on my hard drive, but this is no longer coming from my hard drive. This is coming from the cloud. So this could have been another person somewhere halfway around the globe who's now editing this file. So I'll come in and make some changes, updated. Not sure why that's asking me to reopen, but I wanted to reopen the file. There we go. I probably hit a hotkey there. Just make sure I'm typing carefully here. Updated, changed, whatever it might be. So now what I'm going to do is I've been working in Windows Explorer, right? Well, the 3DEXPERIENCE platform is available inside of Word and Excel and other integrated applications also. So now I'll just go in and click Save to put this back in the platform, this updated version in the platform. And you see I've got some options here. I can make a comment, I can retain the lock, and I can delete local files. Let me explain those. So added new content in the actions taken column to let other people know what I've done here. And I don't want to retain the lock. I'm not going to keep making changes to this. If I retain the lock, it would mean I was saving an incremental version on the platform and keeping it open to keep making changes. So I'm done with it. I'm going to delete the local file because I don't want to get confused later either about what I have and what's in the system and that kind of thing. So I'll just go ahead and click Save here. And now the system is going to take this out of Excel. It's going to copy it up to the platform as a new version. We can see that was done successfully here. And close it out and get rid of my local file. So now if I take a look at this document, I just click on it here again to access it. We're just checking to make sure everything's synced with the cloud. And I look at the Revisions and Versions tab, you'll see that I now have two versions of the document that are being managed on the platform. Version 1 and Version 2. Version 2 here, if I just expand out this comments column, added new content in the actions taken area, right? And you can see here the file name's all the same. This is what we're tracking, and there's detail about it and metadata and that sort of thing. So what I want to do now, though, is look at how do we control the life cycle of this. I'll show you one more thing that we see. Here's the state, life cycle state. I'm going to go take a look at the web browser view of things. We've seen the Windows Explorer view of things. We've seen what happens inside of Word and Excel. But let's have a look at what we see in the browser and focus on the life cycle as the next step. So I'll close this down. We'll go back into the web browser. Not as Michael Craffey here, but again as Jonathan Scott. And we'll take a look at what we see in the dashboard for this type of structured collaboration. So we'll look at our document here, document number 47, and take a look at the life cycle that it can move through. We see that right up here. This is the state we were looking at in Windows Explorer previously, but the full life cycle here we can see is made up of a number of different states, and this is part of the structure of the structured document management. This document, this type of file, has been set to have these states to move through, right? So the idea is we want to move from in work to frozen, where it's being reviewed, and then on to released. And if at some point it needs to be obsoleted, it can do that. There's another state for private if that's needed. But what I want to show is that we can control how this process works, more than just having these states defined. So we're going to insert an approval in between two of these states, meaning that we can't move from, let's say, frozen to released until a couple of people have looked at it and given their approval to get there. So you can see how we could build structured document approval workflows, change workflows, things like that out of this building block. So what I'll do is I'm going to leverage something that's pre-created on the platform for me. I can do this ad hoc. I could add people to look at the document between various states if I wanted to, but I'm going to use a route template that predefines people and tasks that need to be performed between two of these states. So I'll use this doc approval route template, and I'll apply it in between these two states from frozen off to released. So we're seeing the route template applied, and when this refreshes, you'll notice we have this new icon here indicating that there's a route between those two states. So we'll just take a quick look at what that looks like. We've got a graphical view of that to understand what needs to happen. So here's the route and information about the route, like there's content, there's dates and information related to it. And we can see once that route gets started after the frozen, after we've reached the frozen lifecycle state, it needs to go to two people for approval before it can be finished and then can be allowed to move on to its release state. So at this point, what I'm going to do is move ahead to frozen so that we can get that route kicked off. So I'll just click this button here, and you can see we've moved on to the frozen state. You may have noticed that I no longer have a button to allow us to click right to that release state. You can see it's here, but we can't go right to released. Well, this route is now in the way, right? We can't get there without having this route done. So I'll click on the route, and we'll just get that kicked off so that those approvals can take place so that we can move on. Right, so we'll start the route. Okay, we see that the route is started. We'll close that up. You can see who we have that needs to do the approval here. And I'll just show you one more thing. If I try to do a promote again, notice I have a button in here to try and promote. You'll notice promotion failed, cannot promote, all requirements not satisfied. In other words, those approvals aren't finished yet. So again, more of the structure behind document management. So let's log out, log back in again as Michael Craffey. And we'll see what Michael Craffey notices, because obviously he needs to be notified that he has some action to perform, has some task to do, so that this release process can move forward. So come back in as Michael. And Michael's in the dashboard in the platform again. I'll highlight, I'm going to go into collaboration and approvals as Michael again, just like I did as Jonathan. And, you know, Michael could be notified to do that in a number of ways. He could be working in the platform already, or maybe he receives an email, because certainly an email was sent along with that notification. What I want to highlight to you is how Michael gets notifications here inside the platform. Well, he certainly sees that he's got this document is new in his list, but notice he has an assigned task, right? So he has work that he needs to do, and that's showing up, and guess which route this is related to, right? So here's the route, and we'll notice that on this route, here is the document that he needs to review. Without bringing this up, of course, I could bring it up right in the viewer from here to take a look at it. I'm just going to shortcut this and say that he approves of this, right? He has options here, though. He can abstain from agreeing, approve, reject. Notice he could also change the assignee if he needs to delegate this to someone. Hopefully you're getting the picture. This is a very robust routing, approval, and document management and lifecycle tool for as complex as or simple as you want to make it. So Mike will say, yes, I approve. This looks good. So once he's approved, we can have a look at, well, where's this going, right? This is a task on the route. If we have a look at the route itself, oh, we're not going to see that here. I'm going to go back in as Jonathan, actually, and see that. See, what is the original person who sent this along, what do they see? Now, you'll remember there were two people that needed to be involved, and I have not completed the approval from Brian, right? I've only done the approval for Michael. So we'll go back in and see what does this partially completed route look like. And we won't finish all of this off so we can move on to some of the other topics. But if I go back in here, have a look in Collaboration and Approvals. We can take a look at this view from the perspective of our document. I didn't highlight it, but you may notice this little icon here is showing up a number of places related to the document because there is a route in progress related to this document, right? So we can understand what's going on there. So if I go back and look at the lifecycle view, you can see I still don't have the ability to move on to the next state, but here's the information about what's happened, right? So this task has been completed by Michael Craffey. He approved it on this date. Yes, I approve this. Looks good. If I want to understand in a little bit of a different way here what's happened, I can open the route and see this graphically again with some color coding to get the picture of exactly what's happened. So if I just scroll this down, you'll see we're waiting on Brian Lau to do a detailed review because Michael Craffey's already done his conceptual review and he's given the approval. So we know exactly what's going on there. Okay, so I want to just leave this scenario here, wrap up, and I want to look at how some of this document management could happen in the context of other PLM content. So I'm going to stay logged in as Jonathan, but I'm actually going to go in and look at a different application on the platform, and we'll see that it can connect right back to the type of thing we were just looking at. So what I'm going to come down to is project management. So this is certainly a PLM application where we're looking at the details behind a project, its tasks, schedules, and anything that might be connected to that. So that's what I want to talk about, is how document management can be connected into that. So the first view I see is the list of projects that I'm involved in. I'm going to click on one that I happen to be dealing with right now. And when I click on the project, I get a view of that project. Again, another dashboard to help me get an overview, get oriented, and understand where things are. But what I want to look at is document management again. So the structured document management we just mentioned a minute ago in workspaces can be done just the same way here inside of a project. So we saw a workspace with a folder. Guess what? Here's a project with a handful of folders. So I'm going to take a look at these project docs, right? Here are some project documents. And what I'll do is I'll grab another document here, and I'm just going to bring this in as well. So I'll take this data sheet, drag and drop it right into that folder. And we'll see if we look inside the folder now that that file, let's just open this up a bit, has been added to the folder, just like we've been adding documents all along. So we'll take a look at this, but I want to put it in the context of the project. So I'm going to come over to a different part of project management. Let's have a look at the schedule. Okay, so we want to look at the detailed tasks and work breakdown structure inside of this project. So you can see we've got the detailed tasks, and if we break things down, we can see that view here. I'm going to give you just a little bit of a different view here by looking at the phase gate view of things. So depending on how your organization manages projects, we have a lot of capabilities here. But to put this document management in context of what's done in a project, let's attach the document as a deliverable to a task. And why is that important? Well, we can see we've got a couple of those going on already, but I'm going to do this one more time. The reason it's important to have your documents, files, other deliverables connected in is because the status that's reported here, right, our progress, our visual indicator of where we are on the project, can be connected back to the status or life cycle of those documents. So let's just go ahead and see how simple it is to tie in document management, structured document management, into our other PLM functionality like project management. So you can see we've got deliverables that we can connect with this task. I'll just add an existing one. And we're going to leverage the search capabilities of the platform here. I'm not even actually going to do a search. I'm just going to refine a search that was already done for me. So all these records that I could connect in as deliverables get loaded for me. But what I want to look at is as the originator, that was me, and when this got created, I should be able to narrow this down here. Although there's the document right there. I could narrow it further with my tagging over here, but you can see there's document 48. That's the one I care about. I'll connect this in as a deliverable. And now if I go back and I refresh my work breakdown structure of the project, we'll notice that now for this design phase, my review design task has a new document connected as a deliverable. So I won't take it further than this. I just wanted to highlight how we can connect these two worlds and how document management done in the context of PLM can be even more powerful. So what we've looked at in this quick video are 3 different modes of doing document collaboration and file sharing. We've seen an unstructured mode. We've seen a more structured document management mode with revision control and routing. And then we've seen that second mode done in the context of other PLM functionality. So that's a quick overview of what you can do on the 3DEXPERIENCE platform on the cloud related to file and document collaboration and management.